Service sector indicators point towards strong growth in July and August. Services PMI rebounded to 57.2 in August from 55.5 in July. Business confidence rose to a 51-month high. So I have first provided where we stand with regard to aggregate demand, where we stand with regard to aggregate supply, and within that I have focused on the agriculture sector, the industry sector, and the services sector indicators. Now, looking ahead, all these factors should support aggregate demand and activity. The headwinds from extended geopolitical tensions, tightening global financial conditions, and possible decline in the external component of aggregate demand can pose downside risks to growth. Taking all these factors into consideration, which I have just narrated, real GDP growth for the current financial year 2022-23 is now projected at 7%, with second quarter at 6.3%, third quarter at 4.6%, and the fourth quarter at 4.6%, with risks broadly balanced. The growth in the first quarter of next financial year, that is 23-24, is projected at 7.2%. I would now like to focus on inflation. Global geopolitical developments are weighing heavily on the domestic inflation trajectory. Inflation inched up to 7% in August from 6.7% in July. Acute imported inflation pressures felt at the beginning of the financial year have eased, but remain elevated across food and energy items. Edible oil price pressures are likely to remain contained on improved supply from key producing countries and measures taken by the government. Going forward, there could be some tapering of selling price increases on account of easing supply conditions and softening of industrial metal and crude oil prices. With services activity showing strong rebound and some improvement in pricing power, risks of higher pass-through to input costs, however, do remain. There are also upside risks to food prices. Cereal price pressures is spreading from wheat to rice due to likely lower Kharif paddy production. The lower sowing of Kharif pulses could also cause some pressures. The delayed withdrawal of monsoon and intense rain spells in various regions have already started to impact vegetable prices, especially tomatoes. These risks to food inflation could have an adverse impact on inflation expectations. The Indian basket crude oil price was around 104 barrel in the first half of this year, 22-23, and this is the actual number which has been realized. In the first half of this year, the Indian basket price was, the average was around $104 US dollars per barrel. Going forward, we are now assuming it to be $100 per barrel in the second half of this year. Taking into account these factors, the inflation projection is retained at 6.7% for the current year, with second quarter at 7.1%,